So we go from the transformative, transportational potential of last night's Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Kentuckification, to the refreshing familiarity of leftovers. And leftovers are truly a pleasure when most of the things that you consume as part of the Complimentary Breakfast Club, you're really unsure of the origin. Of course, the waffle batter was from the Complimentary Breakfast Club. To know that I made this chicken last night and prepared for today is a real enjoyable experience because I know I had my hand in it. I know where the chicken came from. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough potato salad left over, so this morning I picked up some biscuits and gravy as I left the complimentary breakfast at the Best Western, and in true KFC fashion, I transported them in these buckets. And, actually, this morning's breakfast at the Best Western was really quite a pleasurable experience. So I drive up to the hotel, and I drive around to the back, and there's this really nice wooded area. So I was able to just walk through this nice forested, well, it was actually quite a slope, which was hard to carry both my coffee, the biscuit, and the gravy up the slope on my way back, but very nice. Because I do believe that biscuits and gravy are another one of the classic pairings or another one of the optional sides for Kentucky Fried Chicken. They've got all sorts of whatever, coleslaw. I wish I could make coleslaw. I wish I had the ingredients from a complimentary breakfast to make coleslaw. If there's anything that fresh, it would be amazing. But speaking of knowing the origins of things, now that I think about it, it does seem odd to have biscuits and gravy be one of the options that you can obtain from Kentucky Fried Chicken or from KFC, because I'm no expert on KFC. I've never had it, and I'm no scientist, but usually gravy kind of is paired with or is provided because it's part of a natural process where you're gathering the drippings from the chicken. But as far as I can imagine, all the drippings from the chicken would either be contained, sealed in with that batter, or would just end up in the deep fryer, because I think that's how they do it. So, the origin of this gravy that you get at KFC is kind of ambiguous. Although maybe it is kind of not all that far off, because they should probably just gather it from the deep fryer anyway and turn that into gravy. But there's something infinitely comforting and enjoyable about biscuits and gravy. It's like you've got this white, soft, nicely kind of layered, dense biscuit, just saturated with this gray gravy. Which, now that I think about it, it's kind of funny, where does the term gravy actually come from? I know it's spelt different than gray, so it's not like gravy, but it's like the French, they just call it, sauce brune, like brown sauce, right? So this is like gray sauce, Yeah, make a fair bit of sense. So I've left the land of biscuits and gravy, and with it that gray zone, that undefined period in my life where I had no no city to call my home, no permanent address, and I was this ambiguous ghost-like figure, and there's a freedom to that. So I've settled here in Montreal, the land of sauce Peru. But it's interesting how my life has begun to revolve around the necessity of the ambiguous. It's like I'm subsisting on these foods that I have no idea where they come from. They're prepared in this kind of secretive back room and brought out periodically. But then also beyond that, my ability to actually obtain those to participate within the Complimentary Breakfast Club relies on my own ambiguous origin. Like, for example, today, creeping down this back forested area into the hotel property. So of course, settling in a city, I can no longer take advantage of that gray zone, that ambiguity where I'm entering the hotel and will never be recognized. There's a finite number of hotels that I can take advantage of the breakfast before I get recognized. So that can no longer sustain me. Like the food that I consume, my key goal is maintaining a very ambiguous origin. Like the scrambled eggs, like the waffle batter, like the gravy. Of course, when you're presented with a sausage, you have no idea what's in there. I need to appear in a presentable way as if I was always in that state, as if I was always a guest at the hotel. They, as the organization, cannot see my preparation, cannot see my entrance into the hotel. That does become the fear, the recognition, because the thing that I can continue to take part in is the scrounging for food, is looking through dumpsters. And it's like, because I'm no longer this transient individual, I'm self-conscious. I'm aware of the fact that I'm no longer within this gray zone. I can be recognized, and I'm aware of the impacts of my actions and how people see me. So it's like I'm self-conscious about picking up food off the street. Because it does leave a mark. You know, you feel stained, you feel saturated by this image. Here in Montreal, the land of the sauce boom is no longer that gray gravy. It saturates my diet because, like, picking up food off the street, sometimes you get this huge variety, but when you're stationary in the city and you learn the routines and you get to become accustomed to the traditions, and, you know, it was a thrill the first time I enjoyed poutine. Not in the same comforting way as biscuits and gravy, because I think part of it is that biscuits are very much a homemade thing that people make at home, whereas French fries aren't. And God, I was talking about how strange it was to pair gravy with, or biscuits and gravy with Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's like, because the gravy wouldn't naturally occur. This is just gravy for the sake of gravy. So potatoes produce gravy when they cook, or cheese curds. But no, it is really hard walking down the street. Like, I do really believe in trying to preserve this food that I find, and therefore consume it myself in order to prevent it from going to waste. But it is embarrassing. Like, it's like the example of the canteen. People have already, like, by throwing it away, they've already determined, well, this isn't good enough for me. And therefore, every time I pick up some discarded food, I'm kind of defining, or I am evaluating myself in relation to that. So therefore, I'm automatically downgraded, or that's the emotion, that's the feeling that's generated, that you're downgraded from the person that initially threw it out. So I am self-conscious about it, but at the same time I truly do believe in it. So within my current context, every time I walk away from a new action, a new situation, with my fist in the air, I can so easily be victorious. But every time I walk away from one of these actions, I truly hope that the people forget about me, because I know there's the chance that I'll see them again. Before, I didn't really have to hope that they forgot about me. And the rest is gravy.